20th, 1997 was supposed to be the night that Pat Riley's Miami Heat finally conquered basketball royalty. With 61 wins, the league's best defense, and two superstar leaders in Alonzo Mourning and Tim Hardaway, Miami looked ready to dethrone Michael Jordan and his legendary Bulls. But nobody told MJ. At age 34, Jordan turned the tables, delivering one of the most unforgettable performances of his career, crushing Mourning's pride, silencing Hardaway's swagger, and leaving Coach Riley stunned in disbelief. The 1997 Heat weren't just another challenger. They were arguably the toughest defensive team the NBA had seen in years. Pat Riley meticulously built this defensive powerhouse around Alonzo Mourning, a physical presence feared across the league. Mourning had the kind of defensive dominance capable of changing entire games, intimidating opponents, and anchoring the paint in ways that seemed impenetrable. Alongside him was Tim Hardaway, whose lethal crossover and explosive scoring had elevated Miami into legitimate championship contenders. But facing Michael Jordan wasn't like playing anyone else. MJ had just wrapped up another legendary season, leading Chicago to a staggering 69 wins. He had heard all season long how Miami's defense might finally be his match, how Mourning could neutralize his drives, and how Hardaway could push Chicago's veteran backcourt. Jordan wasn't having any of it. He knew that to remain on top, you couldn't just beat rising stars. You had to crush their hopes entirely. As Game 1 tipped off, it quickly became clear that Miami was ready for battle. On the first possession, Voshon Leonard blocked Jordan's shot, immediately draining a three-pointer on the other end. Miami fans were elated, believing this might finally be their moment. Yet, Jordan responded swiftly, dunking emphatically moments later to send a clear message. He wasn't backing down. Miami dominated much of the first half, led by Mourning's ferocious defense and Hardaway's offensive prowess. They built an 11-point lead going into halftime, silencing Chicago's home crowd. For a moment, it seemed the dynasty was indeed vulnerable. But games aren't decided in the first half, especially when Michael Jordan is involved. When Jordan emerged from halftime, he wasn't just looking to make a comeback, he was ready to destroy Miami's confidence entirely. Time after time, he backed down Miami's perimeter defenders, using his superior strength and basketball IQ to carve out enough space to unleash his signature fadeaway jumpers. Voshon Leonard, who had begun the game confidently, quickly realized he was no match for Jordan's methodical, relentless attack. Even Mourning, the league's defensive anchor, struggled to slow MJ down. When Mourning protected the rim, Jordan simply adjusted his strategy, exploiting gaps in Miami's defensive rotations with pinpoint mid-range shooting and creative playmaking. Jordan wasn't just scoring, he was dismantling Miami's defensive identity with calculated precision. Throughout the second half, Michael began dissecting Miami's defense with plays that went beyond scoring. He became a maestro, orchestrating opportunities for teammates like Ron Harper and Scottie Pippen. One crucial moment came when Jordan, triple-teamed, somehow found Harper open at the three-point line. Harper drained the shot, giving Chicago their first lead since early in the first quarter. Miami's confidence visibly wilted, realizing that even their best defensive efforts weren't enough to contain the league's greatest player. Yet MJ wasn't satisfied simply reclaiming the lead. He was determined to bury Miami completely. Late in the fourth quarter, he split Miami's defenders effortlessly, floating in a nearly impossible shot that sent the United Center into an uproar. Jordan's dagger not only sealed the victory, but punctured Miami's confidence for the rest of the series. After the final buzzer, Michael's stat line told the story: 37 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists. But numbers alone couldn't capture the true devastation he inflicted on Miami's psyche. Pat Riley's carefully constructed team had been humbled, their championship dreams dismantled by Jordan's legendary determination. This wasn't just another playoff game. It was a critical moment in basketball history. If Miami had secured the victory, they might have gained enough momentum to dethrone Chicago entirely. But instead, Jordan's unstoppable force triggered a psychological blow that Miami never overcame, losing the series decisively in 5 games. But Jordan didn't stop there. Propelled by the momentum gained from dismantling the Heat, he went on to dominate Karl Malone, John Stockton, and the Utah Jazz in the finals, winning his 5th championship. MJ's relentless performance throughout these playoffs reminded everyone that true greatness defies age, circumstance, and even logic. Pat Riley later admitted he'd prepared thoroughly to neutralize Jordan, yet nothing seemed to matter. His defensive schemes were destroyed by MJ's fierce competitiveness and uncanny ability to adapt in-game. Tim Hardaway, whose scoring prowess had elevated Miami's championship aspirations, found himself utterly outclassed. For Alonzo Mourning, this was a harsh awakening. He later acknowledged MJ's relentless drive made him unlike any other opponent he'd faced. Miami's defeat represented a crucial lesson for any ambitious team. To overcome greatness, you needed more than talent or ambition. You needed unwavering belief and flawless execution. Miami had the talent and swagger, but lacked the championship pedigree that Jordan wore like armor. Even decades later, this game symbolizes the ultimate testament to Jordan's legacy. It wasn't simply about a superstar scoring points. It was about a fierce competitor who refused to relinquish his throne, whose dominance wasn't just physical, but psychological. Jordan didn't just beat Miami. He dismantled their confidence, crushed their aspirations, and reaffirmed his status as basketball's undisputed king. What's fascinating is how clearly this performance encapsulates Jordan's entire career narrative. Time and again, younger stars and powerful teams stepped up to challenge him, and each time, Jordan responded by taking his game to another level. He wasn't merely a player, he was a relentless competitor who changed basketball by proving that championships aren't won through skill alone. They're earned through mental toughness and unmatched determination. Perhaps most remarkable was Jordan's complete disregard for the passing of time. At 34, when athletes typically show signs of decline, he was playing with the same tenacity and dominance that had defined his career from the start. Miami learned the hard way that greatness doesn't simply fade away, it has to be actively conquered. And so, we're left wondering, what if Miami had pulled off the upset? Would this have marked the end of the Bulls dynasty, allowing Riley's squad to redefine NBA history? Or would Jordan, forever unbreakable, simply have found another way to reclaim his throne? Ultimately, May 20th, 1997 wasn't just another playoff game. It was the night Michael Jordan reminded the world what makes a champion truly legendary. For Mourning, Hardaway, and Riley, it was a bitter lesson in humility. For basketball history, it was another unforgettable chapter in the greatest legacy the game has ever known. Because that night, Jordan didn't merely defeat the Miami Heat. He shattered their championship dreams, erased their bravado, and reminded everyone that no matter how talented or ambitious you are, defeating greatness requires far more than talent or hype. Miami brought everything they had, but Michael Jordan brought even more. Unmatched resilience, championship wisdom, and a legacy of victory that simply couldn't be overcome. But the psychological damage didn't just linger for the rest of that series. It carried over into the following seasons. Miami remained a strong Eastern Conference team, but they were never able to truly shake the memory of that Game 1 humiliation. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't get past the shadow of that night, when their best effort was still not enough to topple the king. For Alonzo Mourning, the loss became part of his personal narrative. Despite years of dominance and Defensive Player of the Year honors, he struggled to lead Miami past the second round until much later in his career. That Game 1 felt like a harsh reminder that sheer intensity wasn't enough to conquer someone like Jordan, whose experience and control over the game simply outmatched raw effort. Tim Hardaway's confidence also took a hit. Known for his swagger and leadership, he had walked into the series believing Miami could take down the Bulls. But facing Jordan in peak playoff form exposed the limits of even the most skilled guards. It wasn't just about talent, it was about the moment, and Jordan owned every second of it. And for Pat Riley, the defeat cut deep. A master strategist and defensive genius, Riley had faced many greats in his storied coaching career, but Jordan remained the one puzzle he could never fully solve. Years later, Riley would reflect on how MJ didn't just play the game. He controlled it mentally, emotionally, and physically. That night in May was less about schemes and more about willpower, and Jordan simply couldn't be matched. Looking back, May 20th, 1997 stands as a turning point, not just for that playoff run, but for how we understand greatness. It was a night that proved why legends aren't made during the easy wins. They're forged in the toughest battles, under the brightest lights, when everything is on the line. And in that moment, as Miami stood poised to rise, Michael Jordan reminded them, and the world, that true greatness doesn't flinch, it dominates.